I don't know what to do, sir. I don't know why it's doing this. It says that it's live. Okay. Hold on, guys. Bring in Sarah. We got Sarah joining us here. Okay. It says that we're live, but I can't see it live on my phone. You're in the chat. Does anyone else see it?
Let me pull that back up. I mean, I'm in there. It's not live right now. Still waiting.
I don't know what to do.
Do you want to try the original link that we had?
Where's that?
Well, you sent me like a different email. You know, you said it might send you a new.
Oh, it has the time wrong. Let's see if now it works. What?
So should I rejoin that?
Yes.
Waiting for the host to let me in.
I'm just going to do a new live, but then I can't.
See if the. So there was another.
Oh my God. I mean, I really don't know what else to do. I mean, everything is set up exactly the way it's supposed to be set up. I don't know, babe.
So originally, when you set it up the first time, like I have two emails, I guess two different links.
Mm-hmm.
So should we try the first link? Like, do you have a different thing to link in Riverside? You got 14 people on the live waiting.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not trying to make it worse, babe. I was trying to.
I don't know. There's no other options. I mean, everything is set up the way it's supposed to be set up. That's what doesn't make any sense. Like, there's nothing else that I can do. Oh, there we are. Okay. Is it? No. False alarm.
If you go into YouTube, will it let you just go live?
So this shows. I mean, I don't know. I think it might be playing.
Oh.
Yay!
Yeah, we are. We're just.
Okay. Hey, guys. We got it figured out. Give me just 1 second here to get all my windows back where they were.
Let me tell the people in the other chat to come join this chat.
Oh, is there a new one?
The upcoming one didn't go live.
Okay. All right. Sarah's sending out a message right now. Hold on just one more minute. Promise, guys, we're about to do this thing. And I'm using new software. It's supposed to make life easier, and it's doing everything but. So send that message out, babe, and then we'll get rolling. Okay. And that gave people time to get into the room, so it actually worked out okay. Thank you for everyone who was just hanging in there. And hopefully we're not watching too much of our madness. I didn't know it was recording this entire time. So that's fun. Okay, got 18 people in the room. Sure, we ran off a lot with our shenanigans, but we're about to get going. Okay.
Welcome to us.
Life. Okay. Ooh, there we go. Shrink my big head down a little bit. All right. How's everybody doing Saturday night on planet Earth? I got my lovely co-host with me today.
Hello.
Do a formal introduction just a second when she's done communicating. Okay, tell me when you're ready to roll, babe.
Yeah, go ahead. Ready.
Ready? All right. Okay, hello, friends, and welcome to another one of our special editions of Conscious Observers, our Saturday night live, where we do a recap of the week's episodes and happenings. I am Jordan, and I have my lovely co-host Sarah with me today. Say hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
So last week she was here with me, but we didn't have the double camera thing. So this week we have the double camera thing. And so that way she can take everyone's questions. She kind of monitors the chat and fields questions, talks to everybody, and does all that. But then also she's my co-host. So, she'll tell her stories and be a part of the conversation as well. I know a lot of y'all have got to know her over the years as you've gotten to know me. We are a team, kind of a yin and yang kind of a deal. I think we're the perfect masculine, feminine energy, and kind of a left brain, right brain kind of a deal. So it works out pretty good. Yeah. So, all right. So in this version of Conscious Observers, what we like to do is field questions from the audience, from you guys, and discuss them here as a community because I do my 2 episodes every week, Tuesday and Thursdays, and we cover a lot of stuff, and it's kind of a lot to process. And a lot of people reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, it'd be really cool if we could chat about these things and kind of do a breakdown." And I thought it was a great idea. So we're doing these Saturday Night Lives, but also it's good for me because sometimes I forget to say things. I'm out there freestyling and I don't have notes and I don't edit or anything. And sometimes, I get back home and I'm like, "Ooh, I forgot to say this." So this is a chance for me also to, kind of recap anything that I might have left out. So before we get going any further, let's do a quick summary of what we talked about this week. And then please put any of your questions into the live chat. Sarah's going to be monitoring that. And we will do our best to read each one and to answer them thoroughly. So we started off on Tuesday of this week with the episode on the gathering and the kind of sky of UFOs vision/dream that everyone's been having. And this has been going on for decades. And I got a lot of reaction out of that one. It was actually our biggest episode yet. And thank you guys so much, first, before I go any further, for watching and supporting and listening and sharing and doing all the things that you do. It's been amazing. And the show's growing faster than we thought it would. And it's been a whole lot of fun. And that's all because of y'all. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we love reading all your comments, so keep them coming. We try to get to all of them. And that one on Tuesday got a lot of activity. It seemed to resonate with people. And I thought that was cool because, like I hear about this stuff. We live in this kind of world. Sarah is an amazing, she does past life hypnosis regression and all sorts of other things. So we live in this world of kind of going between lives and going between realms. But I never know how many people out there do or think about this stuff or even contemplate it or whatever. So it's cool when you throw a video like that out there and people are like, "Ooh, I've had that dream. I've had that experience happen to me." And so many people start sharing their stories. And so that's really, really cool. It means that isn't some fluke or some body's imagination or dream. Because I mean, we're having very, very similar experiences around the world, and I think that's cool. So there was a lot of comments and interactions on that video, and in that video, what we mainly talked about was that there's been this recurring dream people have been having where they, and it happens different with every person, but the gist of it is you kind of go outside in your dream, you look up in the sky, and you see like a sky full of UFOs, not just one UFO or not some big craft or anything like that, but like a sky full of UFOs. And I think that's the distinction because you typically when we see a UFO or you see a picture of a UFO or someone has an encounter with UFO, me and Sarah have had a couple different encounters with UFOs, and it's usually one, just one light or one UFO or one craft. But to see a sky full of UFOs, that's different. That's unique. And that's not even really portrayed in like the movies and stuff. It's usually one UFO or maybe a couple or three or four, but not 100 or 1,000. And the fact that people keep having that dream is, I think, very interesting. And this goes back decades. So we started off by talking about that, the dream people have so often about, the sky full of UFOs, but then we took it further and dove into Robert Monroe, back in the 80s when he wrote his book Far Journeys and talked about the gathering and how there's a gathering of spacecraft around Earth. And in one of the Explorer missions from the Monroe Institute, Tom Campbell talked about it too, and he called it the big event. And he went to this gathering place. And the Monroe Institute actually has a course where they take you to Focus 35, where you can actually go to the gathering and interact with these ET ships. You have to get there. It's kind of like becoming a black belt. You can't just take that course. But it's pretty exciting stuff. I haven't done that course because I'm not at that level, but that's like one of my goals is to get to that level and do that course. So this is a real thing. So we're seeing it from all these different angles. And then what they talk about, what Robert Monroe and people like Dolores Cannon and so on and so forth talk about is that this is all associated with this big shift, this split into new Earth, this ascension to 5D, all sorts of different names for it, but they all seem to be describing the same thing. Even in biblical senses, when you talk about like the apocalypse and the battle between good and evil and the 3 days of darkness, which leads to like the purification of Earth and the 1,000 years of peace and all this kind of stuff. They seem to all sort of be talking about the same thing. So we explored that in the first episode this week, and I would love to hear your thoughts on all that because obviously it's a very heavy conversation. Is it a good shift? Is it a bad shift? Is this the apocalypse? What does that mean? All these things. Is it going to happen in our lifetime? So we have a list of questions that we've fielded from the audience over the last few days, and then we're also going to take your questions live here today. And then the second video, on Thursday, we went into starseeds because it kind of was a natural segue. Because in the starseed world, I shared a personal story, and then I went into Dolores Cannon and her 3 waves of volunteers and her breakdown of what starseeds are, just because she has gone more in depth on it than just about anybody I've seen, and she kind of did this decades ago, so it laid the groundwork for all the people that are doing it now. And they talk a lot about, even in like past life regression and QHHT world, when people are under hypnotic regression, when people have had these dreams of like the ship. So there's kind of 2 UFO dreams. There's the sky full of UFO dream, and then there's the kind of the worker, like meaning like a ship lands and somebody's like helping guide people onto it or helping to orchestrate stuff, and they seem to have like a job that they're doing. And then those people, when they go into like a hypnotic regression and they're kind of pulling more details out of this, they'll say things like, "Oh, that's my team. Those people are with me. They're training me, and I go to like sleeper school, or I'm training during sleep to learn what to do when this happens. So then when the shift happens, then and the ships come down, then they know what to do, and they spring into action. They're not affected by whatever's happening, and they've been training for this in their sleep." And when I was talking about that, so many people started messaging, "Oh my God, I've had those dreams, where I'm ushering people into a ship and I'm doing this, that, and the other during some sort of an event." People describe the other people being kind of zombified and sort of out of it, and they're helping to guide people and protect people and do all this stuff. It's a whole orchestrated thing that evidently a whole bunch of people all around the world are sort of more or less training for in their sleep. And I thought that's really interesting because this isn't 1 or 2 people that have this experience, like a lot of people have. So those are the kind of the gist of the 2 episodes this week. And obviously, each one being almost an hour, we touch on a lot of different topics, but that's general overview. And so now I guess we will just turn to questions because that's the most fun and important part of this episode here. So make sure you throw them into the chat, and we do have some that we've gathered from the community this week. But Sarah, you've had a UFO dream,
Yeah, if you
experience.
wanted to.
Yeah. You had one, like your more recent one. Do you want to describe it?
My most recent one was like so vivid, like right here, like it was so vivid and like taking place in the actual like place that we live right this minute. So like I woke up and it was the middle of the night and I ran out the front door and like opened the door and like thought that they were all still going to be up there like in the sky like right then,
Yeah.
you know. And then I was like, wait, what has happened?
So you had the dream, and then when you woke up, you ran outside thinking that what you dreamed was real.
Yeah, it was like it was so vivid in my dream that I think I like woke myself up to physically go see it because I thought that it was like happening right then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's wild. And a lot of people describe very similar things, and I used your story as the intro to that episode because I've heard very similar things from other people. So yeah, and people will often say things like it seemed more real than real, and that's why it sticks with you. It doesn't just feel like a dream. And so I think that's very telling. We've all had dreams like that where I think everyone knows how normal dreams are. You wake up, you kind of have I don't know, a flash of your dream. You try to remember it, it's fleeting, it goes away, and you're like, man, I can't remember that. But then there's some dreams that just stick with you. It's so real, and it's there even days, weeks, months later. And those are those are different. There's something going on there.
yeah, for sure. So first question.
Wait. Is your mic not working?
Yeah, well, discovered a little problem with the charging situation, but I've got it figured out now. So that won't even turn on. Okay, push that just a little bit this way for now.
Okay.
So, or do you want to do it?
All right.
Like charge.
Yeah, sorry, we bought a lot of new gadgets. Not all working the way they're supposed to.
The plastic was over the charging.
You just take that out of your phone. You can just use your natural mic. There we go. Okay.
All right. Well, yeah. Sorry, technical difficulty. Right. Okay.
We're learning here, guys. This will get easier and better and smoother every week. Okay.
Aren't we all like kind of starseeds if all our souls originated off planets?
Okay, I like that. So the question is, if most of us, I guess the underlying sentiment here is, if most of our souls, consciousnesses came from other places before this incarnation or sojourn, wouldn't we all kind of be starseeds, right? So the way I would define a starseed is you're coming into this life with a specific mission, meaning like here it's kind of a one stop kind of a plan. You're going to come in, you have a specific mission, you're doing your thing, and you're getting out. It might be maybe a 2 or 3 incarnation package deal if it's like unfinished business. But generally speaking, it seems that starseeds come in, they incarnate, they have a mission, they're being supported by other people, by their team, and then they come out and they go back home, on their merry way. So that would be a starseed. So I do firmly believe that most souls, most human beings originated somewhere else besides Earth. But also we know from doing so many past life regressions that most people have also had many consecutive human lives. So while you might have started off somewhere else a long, long time ago, there's a very good chance that you've had many, many consecutive human lives, like dozens, if not hundreds. So then you're not really a starseed, all right? You've been here for a while. You're pretty human, even though your origins might not be from Earth, right? So I think that's pretty common. But that's different than a starseed, So somebody asked me because I started off my video on starseeds with my dream. I had this very intense dream where I was washing what I thought was blue paint off my face. And then the more I tried, the more it covered my face, and then eventually, after I'm like scrubbing feverishly, I look up in the mirror and I'm a complete blue being, and I had this like gold, like kind of trapezoid thing on my forehead, and like chiseled features, and no facial hair, and I was staring myself in the eye, and I just had this feeling of familiarity, and I was like, oh my god, like is that me? Like this is so weird. And people ask, okay, does that mean you're a starseed? And I don't think so, because me and Sarah have had, like, past lives together, you know? So, it doesn't seem like I'm a starseed because I've had past human lives, or at least past lives on Earth. Um, but that also doesn't mean that I don't have, like, close ties with star family, you know what I mean? So you can have, like, you know, people that aren't, 'cause we're kinda focused here in the Earth life because of our multiple incarnations. But before that, we were somewhere else. So you can have like existing friends or family or team members that aren't human, that aren't focused humans, that are still helping you and guiding you and that kind of stuff, even though you're not technically a starseed. So, we might be splitting hairs at a certain point here, but I don't think I'm a starseed, meaning like I just got here to Earth for this one specific mission, because I'm pretty sure I've had past human lives. But I do think I'm in close connection with my star family, because when I had that experience with the Monroe Institute, and the Monroe Institute, when I was trying to connect with my mom who had passed, I actually was kind of intercepted of sorts by what seemed to be like a star family member who was like, your life was set up in a way to where you were going to shed your human family at a certain point and connect with your star family. And I was told this in a like deep meditation at the Monroe Institute, and all these other things have happened in my life that have kind of confirmed that. So, it's kind of interesting. You have human family and you also have star family, and sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're different, but it's kind of neat when you start looking at all the different worlds and you realize that your friend circle and your family circles are pretty big and diverse. Um, what's the next question?
Okay. So, um, are ETs a part of the event or just observing the event?
Yeah, so when it comes to the event, and I guess we'll break down that next, like what the event is, but or potentially could be. So are ETs a part of it, or are they just observing? Because like Robert Monroe talked specifically about them observing. They're observing this new birth on Earth, this new life form that's going to be birthed. And in his view, the life form was basically all of the collective human consciousness was going to come together and form like this super consciousness, which was going to form like this cosmic deity and kind of this cosmic archetype, almost like a god energy source that was made from the collective unified human consciousness. And that's what all of the ET ships around Earth were here to watch. And I thought that was a very interesting point of view, because that would kind of be like this collective 5D ascension that like a lot of the spiritual people talk about, 5D ascension. But Robert Monroe was talking about this in the 1980s and 70s, and his was definitely not from a spiritual point of view, because he wasn't like a spirituality type person. He was more of an engineer, analytical minded person, but he was able to go and explore in the astral and see all these things from a different point of view. And his guides showed him the gathering, showed him all the spaceships, and told him exactly why they're here. And so in that case, he was saying that they weren't intervening or influencing us; they were just watching and observing. That doesn't mean that none of them were. I mean, he wasn't told every single possible thing. Because then you hear these stories about how, some of those ships, when the quote unquote event happens, do come down to Earth, and there's people here, the star seeds, that are working with them, that they snap in action. And one of the things they do is they're actually here and they land and they start shuttling people off planet, sometimes just to kind of wait out the event and then they come back down. Other times they take their star seeds, their crews, back home because their job's done, kind of a deal. So it does seem that there's both. They're observing, and some of them actually are interacting. It seems, just by putting together all these stories and pieces of the puzzle. So I would say it's kind of an interactive thing. They're definitely interested, because he said that this affects the greater, this local area of our cosmos. Um, so they definitely have a vested interest in the outcome. Absolutely. So there's nothing to say that they're not influencing it somehow. And I think that's why we're seeing so much ET activity on Earth. I think that there's a lot of different interested parties that are kind of like, hey, saying, hey, we want to have a say in how this goes. Because Robert Monroe is told specifically that humans and our free will decisions are what shape this outcome, and that we're kind of writing our own script right now. So it's very important what you do in your life. But I also think that there's others that are here that are influencing it because they want this outcome to go their way too. Lots of different agendas happening. So, to answer that question, are ETs influencing it or just watching it? I think both for sure.
Okay, so on your phone, you can see the chat,
Uh-huh.
right? So a question just popped up.
Which one?
From Gonzalo
Uh-huh.
Rodriguez.
Jordan, can you please give some background to the Melchizedek in the Mormon religion, two priesthoods? Oh, yeah, I don't know. That's very um,
Should we do a deep dive on that?
yeah, we can. I mean, I've done
later?
videos on Drunvalo Melchizedek. He wrote an awesome book called Power of the Heart or something having to do with the heart. And he teaches you how to build like basically Merkaba craft by using like thought, intention, and creating like this light vehicle craft that you can use to sort of have your consciousness astral project and astral travel, but in a more safe way. I learned how to do that from his book. That was Drunvalo Melchizedek, and I'm pretty sure there's different Melchizedeks. So I don't want to answer that question because I'm not exactly sure about that particular one. But when it comes to Drunvalo, I am very familiar and he's awesome. So, but I will use that Gonzalo as a inspiration to research that more.
I have taken note.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got, do ETs age, reincarnate, or procreate?
Yeah. All the above. I mean, when you talk about ET, you're basically, I mean, if you just want to break it down and define what an ET is, it's any sort of like a intelligent life form that's not human, that's not from Earth. I mean, that's how I would define it. There's not really like a textbook Encyclopedia Britannica definition, I don't think, but or maybe there is, I don't know. But that's how I would define it. So yes, I mean they're going to be well, obviously there's non-physical and there's physical. So that's where you get into, I guess, where your question gets a little more convoluted is that, you know, if you're a non-physical life form, which the way I've been led to that most of reality, most of the universe is non-physical, and that this physical reality that we're in is sort of a exception. It's like an advanced training tool. So most life forms exist in the non-physical. You know, like when you're in the dream world, when you're in the astral world, um, the spirit world, that's all non-physical. And there's tons of life there, tons of intelligences, tons of consciousness. Now those don't age, you know, that I know of. I mean, they don't age in the same way we do because they're like our body like decays because the cellular process, you know, you got atrophy and you start to break down and decay over time. That's the physical part of you, but the non-physical part doesn't. You know, your consciousness it keeps getting better. It's building and growing and evolving through all this. So the non-physical side, they don't procreate. Not that I've ever seen. I don't know how or why they would. They don't really age. They just evolve. You know, and grow. And what was the other? Do they age? Do they procreate, or do they
Reincarnate.
reincarnate? Well, they definitely reincarnate. So that brings them into the physical. And then the physical, we do all three of those things. We incarnate, we procreate, and we age. So that's all part of, you know, you wouldn't learn, like, if you look at this simulator, as I call it, as this like simulator for consciousness development. The whole reason of coming into the physical, coming in this body is to have these life experiences, feed that information back up to your soul, and your soul keeps growing from your life experiences. And then vicariously, source continues to grow too. So if we didn't never die, if every lifetime you just lived forever, well, then you wouldn't get the different diversity of information that you need to like really develop your soul. Because if you think about it, your soul, your consciousness is the way it is. It's so rich and so, you know, dynamic because of all the different lifetimes you've had. And the only way you can have all those different lifetimes is if that the life begins and ends. So I don't make the rules, but unfortunately, that's the way it is. Every life begins and ends, and it's done on purpose because each one of those lives separately comes together and makes your whole, and that's the important part. So yes, the life has to end for that to happen, for that information to be kind of uploaded to your higher self. So, that's that. So, enjoy every day. Be grateful for everything you have, because this is a relatively short experience. But all of that information goes to your soul, and that's eternal. And then you do survive, death, because you survive as a soul, and you go on forever, and you'll come in for another incarnation, and you'll do all this many, many times here and other places. So it's fun.
Very good. Okay, so we've got question, what consumes the loosh?
Oh yeah, we did touch on loosh. Great question. Loosh is a very polarizing topic, because in one of Robert Monroe's books, he was shown by his guides that humans, like a byproduct of the human experience. So there's something called qualia. So we have consciousness. Consciousness is just this field. It's basically the act of experiencing information. So there's that. That's the general consciousness field. But then we have individual consciousness. So every time you make a free will decision, every time you make any decision in your life, you create something called qualia, which is the subjective form of consciousness. It's this subjective experience. And that subjective experience is yours and only yours. And it goes to your higher self. And that's what makes your soul. Well, in doing so, you generate energy, like through the production of qualia. It's kind of like, I use the analogy of a zip file. So you get a zip file, and say it's 1 megabyte, and then you open that zip file, and then it's like 100 gigabytes, right? Because you've opened up all that stuff. It was compressed, and now it's expanded. So the information comes in compressed, and after we have experiences, it comes out expanded. So it comes out bigger than it came in. Well, the good loosh is just that qualia. Loosh is the energy that that qualia produces. So that energy has to go somewhere, right? So it's kind of like a sewage system for our world. Like, it has to go somewhere. The negative energy, the good energy, the good loosh energy is good. We want to siphon that and funnel that up to source, for source to use as the creative energy to produce more worlds and more life and do all the awesome stuff that it has to do. But the negative energy has to go somewhere, right? Because I think it was the second law of thermodynamics, says that energy can't be created or destroyed, and it can be transmuted and alchemized into other forms. So you have to do something with the energy. So loosh, my spin on it, my understanding of it, is that even negative loosh is just a byproduct of human experience, and that if something is feeding off of that negative loosh, it's acting as kind of like the garbage man taking out the trash, because it has to take that negative energy somewhere. It has to siphon it and funnel it off. And this came up in my interview with Sarah Breskman Cosme. I interviewed her last year, and she talked about demons. And she said what demons were, the way it was described to her, and this is so cool because it backs up my kind of theory on loosh, is that demons are it's called an egregor. It's this thought form, this collective projected thought form. And the whole point of them is they act as a buffer to eat up all the negative energy that we produce, so that it doesn't like leak out into the greater universe. Like, we're kind of this like closed system here. And we come in here, like, say a pilot uses a flight simulator. He can go on that flight simulator and he can try all sorts of crazy shit. And if he crashes the plane, he knows that like no one gets hurt because it's all virtual, right? So that's why you use a flight simulator. You can do daring, risky stuff. So this world, that's why I call it a simulator, because you can come in here and you can do all this daring, risky, crazy stuff here to develop your consciousness. And it's not going to hurt anything on the outside, because there's these systems in place that protect the outside world, like the greater universe. And one of those systems is demons. Demons are entities that feed off of negative loosh energy, and they do that because it has to go somewhere, and it's protecting the the rest of the universe. And it makes sense,
Yeah,
right? It makes sense
yeah.
when you think about it that way. And the funny thing is, people are like, "Oh, that's so scary. I don't want negative, parasitic entities feeding off my negative energy." And it's like, well, quit freaking putting off negative energy. Like, right? Like, that's is if you keep producing trash, the trash man has to keep coming and getting your trash, right? So quit producing trash. That's all on us. Okay. So the angels come and get the good energy. So don't you want more angels coming getting your good energy, right? Right. So, anyways, that's how I would describe. But great question. Like, who gets the loosh? Where does the loosh go? That's how I see it.
Absolutely. Okay, so Alice down the rabbit hole says she's been experiencing hang on, I lost the question. Okay. She's been experiencing school in her dreams for many, many years. Is this common in this community? And opinions on who these teachers are.
Yeah, I love that. So Robert Monroe constantly talks about what he calls sleeper school. It's funny when in an out of body experience one time, he went to the school in the astral, the school that he goes to in his sleep. And the teacher was basically like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, you're my teacher. This is my school." And they were like, "Well, yeah, but you're not asleep." Like they could tell by his color, they could tell by his aura or whatever. However, he presents himself in the astral. I think it's just like a ball of light, but the balls of light are like different colors and intensities. And they basically said, you're like, "Oh, well, you're not asleep. You're in an out of body state. So it's a sleeper school. You can't be here," kind of a deal. So there are rules, obviously, and he was shown that yes, when you're asleep, you go to a school and you train, you run kind of simulations for your life, and you do things, you work on things. I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense. Like our bodies go to sleep, our bodies get tired and have to sleep, but our consciousness doesn't. Your consciousnness doesn't sleep. So what does it do in its time while your body's sleeping? It goes and it sometimes goes and just plays and goes and has adventures, but a lot of times it goes and trains and it goes to school. So where these schools are is just in the astral. There's like a layer around Earth of just non-physical, and it's like the waiting room, the loading area. Like that's the spirit world. It's just another layer of this world. It's a closed system. So even when you're in the spirit world, you're still in the human Earth life experience. Like you're still focused on Earth. You're still human for the most part. You're just in the non-physical part. So that's where the sleeper school is. And the teachers, you know, it's a very interesting question, but I really think that once we graduate from Earth, you have it's just like graduating from school if you think about it. Like say you go to college and you graduate, what are your options at that point? You can, keep going to school, right? And get advanced education. You can stick around the school and be like a tutor or a counselor or a teacher or a teacher's aide or something, or you can go off and get a job and go in the real world and do whatever you want to do. So I really think that once you leave Earth, you have those same options. You can stick around and you can help out. You can be a guide. You can be at a certain level. If you're like an ascended master, you can be like one of the protectors and the guardians of Earth. I really think that that's one of the paths. Or you can just go. It's a big universe, a lot to do out there. So you don't have to stick around here. You can just go. But I think those are your options, and I think that the people that stick around to help, I would assume that they are like the teachers in the sleeper school. That would be um, one of their things that they do. That would be my best guess.
So to answer your other question, I think that yes, that is pretty common in this sort of community. I have a very intense sleeper school that I go to. Like it's been really, really intense this week specifically. I actually, and this is something that you can do. You can literally say to them, "Hey, this is a little too much for me in my like human world." Because like a lot of nights I'll literally wake up and feel like I did not sleep and that I didn't get any rest all night long. So it's like just going during the day and going at night too. So,
Yeah.
you know,
You wake up more tired than you went to bed
yeah,
because you're working.
yeah.
So yeah, you can. I mean, you can tell them, hey, like let's pump the brakes for a little bit. Let me catch my breath, and then we'll get back at it for sure.
And there was also like at the beginning of this year, remember I told you that it felt like I leveled up to a new like from high school to college
Mhm.
kind of thing, and that everything was like way more intense now.
Yeah.
So it kind of almost feels like, and I wonder if anybody else has had that experience, but like it kind of almost feels like it's like prepping me for something that's coming. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, okay, now we're gonna step up the training. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely see that. I mean, I think that's why we get called in our physical life to do certain things. I mean, if you think about it, you're stepping up your physical life training too. Like you know,
Yeah.
you've gotten certified with QHHD and you're
Yeah.
still continuing your education there. You are doing more Monroe training. You're doing all sorts of this additional training in the
Well,
physical
even
world.
like with getting the Egley wheel, You know what I mean? Like I was telling you that like now I'm like meditating. Like I used to meditate every day, but I didn't meditate for like the length of time that I'm meditating now. And
yeah,
like when I'm meditating for like to connect to the egli, I'm doing a specific meditation and it takes me to a specific place and I'm training with other people there. And it's like a whole new place. So it's been a pretty interesting experience.
yeah. She was telling me about the other day. She plays this heart opening meditation from the Monroe Institute, and she goes to a place where they train your heart energy. And you've been there what, 2 or 3 different times? And
Uh, at least,
at least,
yeah.
yeah, at least 3 times, and that the teachers, the instructors are the same. And, like, one time she didn't go for a little bit, she went, like, back to back, and then she didn't go, and she said next time she went, the instructors were like, "Where were you? Like, what took you so long?" They were, like, waiting on her, and
Well, and I had the feeling in the back of my like mind. I was like, oh, I should go and do like almost like a an urge to go and do it, but like I kind of had a headache and like
mhm,
it's not always convenient to like take like an hour and a half to sit down and meditate and then go and like communicate with the Egli and stuff,
yeah.
So I was just like, oh, I'll take it off for a couple of days. And like I felt like I needed to go and do it. And then whenever I got back in there, they were like, where have you been? And I was like, oh, sorry.
That makes me think that they are training you, that there's some sort of urgency, or why
Yeah,
would they care? Why would
yeah,
they care if you took a few days off?
yeah,
So, I think you're being trained on the outside and on the inside.
yeah. I
There's
think
that
so.
that show, we watched it, we sat down and watched it, and we never watch shows anymore, really, like, just binge shows, and we binged Severance, and if y'all,
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know if y'all have ever seen that show, comment if you've seen Severance. Severance to me was blowing my freaking mind because it was totally explaining, showing this duality where, like, you're in, like, so the Severance show, just a quick summary, is that these people have this procedure done to where when they go to work, they don't remember anything of their outside life, and vice versa. Their work life doesn't remember. They call them innies and outies. So the
Yeah.
inside work doesn't remember the outside. And then they're like these two separate beings, and then they start like kind of fighting and trying to escape the ins. It's really wild, but it always reminded me of the sleep world because when you're in the sleep world, it's almost like you have a totally different life and you don't remember your waking life, and then vice versa. Your waking life, you know that when you sleep, you go and do stuff. You have experiences, you go to sleep for school, you have friends and stuff. You don't remember any of it. And it always reminded me of that show. That show is an amazing show, especially season 1. But I think it's definitely tying into like the whole higher self and human self and the physical and the non-physical, but done
Absolutely.
in like a really cool way.
Yeah, for sure. Ethan, just to answer you, that is a place that I go when I meditate. So it is in my mind. But it's like a specific place and like specific energies are there when I go. I don't know how to describe it other than that.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a place that I'm going
And you
to.
know that it's the same place as before. You
Yeah,
just know. It's like
yeah,
this feeling of like, "Oh, this is that place."
yeah.
Yeah.
And the first like couple times that I went, it felt like I had been there before, but not in a really long time, and like I was going back home.
Yeah. Yeah. You always have that kind of like the nostalgic feeling, like, "I've been here before," and,
Yeah.
like, the instructors, you're like, they're familiar,
Mhm.
and none of it's, like, random. Yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have? Well, I know one that I was going to touch on. So, what will life be like after the shift? And will this big event be in our lifetime?
Yeah, so I'll quickly give you a rundown of what I think this shift is, okay? Because I know a lot of people talk about it, and, so what Dolores talked about was that Earth itself is conscious, and Earth itself births humans, and that there's like this birthing process, and that at a certain point, we're supposed to kind of evolve to the next step, and then it goes through the same process again. And what she talks about, the reason the star seeds are here, the 3 ways of volunteers, is that when we started dropping the nuclear bombs, Earth sent out an SOS and said, "Hey guys, like any intelligences out there, come and help my children on the surface are messing stuff up." So that's when the waves, because there's like this non-intervention thing, like the prime directive from Star Trek is very real, and they basically can't directly intervene and say, hey, stop doing that. But they can indirectly intervene by like having people come in as humans, but on a mission from the outside, come in the inside and say, hey, we're on here on a mission to like raise the vibration, spread love and light, and to try to like stop the wars and all this stuff so that Earth doesn't reset us. Because the way I understand it is there's this like cyclical reset that Earth can do to sort of wipe the slate clean and start over with a novel avatar. Um, this is Earth, and Earth is a living, breathing, conscious entity, and it always reserves that right if we, as a parent, to discipline its children or to kick them out of the house if they're not behaving. So we're trying to do this the right way so that nothing bad happens. But so there's a couple different types of shifts. There's the shift where, okay, I've warned you repeatedly, you're still, destroying the place. So, boom, you're done. And those are these great floods and cyclical cataclysms that we hear about in ancient lore. I think those are very, very real. The mud floods, asteroids, that kind of stuff. That happens, and it seems to happen in a cyclical nature. People like Jason Breshears with Archaics have done like amazing chronological work to like pinpoint that this is not like a one-off thing. That these happen in like a repeating pattern, but they're not always bad. There are examples of these resets where they reset very specific, like on like a frequency vibrational level, meaning like if you're a low vibration, maybe you're something happens to you that doesn't happen to the others, right? So I never want to like create any sort of doom and gloom or fear or anything, because this is all like a very natural process. And when you look at like the body as this like temporary vehicle for your consciousness, anyways, that this is all temporary, and that this is not like there's no evilness or anything in any of this. This is just a natural system. And sometimes the system has to be managed, kept in check, cleansed, stuff like that. Like if you have like a parasite in your body or a disease or an illness in your body, you do these cleanses, these crazy cleanses to purge and get everything out of your body, right? And that's kind of like what Earth does sometimes. So the shift can be negative in a way if we're being negative and it needs to discipline us, but a lot of times it can be positive, and you can have this like this sort of ascension, this collective, like graduation. Robert Monroe called it clicking out, when like a collective just clicks out. And I think this is what happened in some ancient civilizations, where we find like ruins of these great civilizations that are just abandoned, and there's not really any logical reason why all the people are gone. Where did they go? Why did they go? And there's theories, of course, with all of it, the Mayans and the Egyptians and the Atlanteans, and there's all these theories. But I think there's also a possibility, the Buddhists believe this, like the rainbow body, that you can fully just almost like spontaneously ascend, just spontaneously combust, and your physical body literally just goes to like ashes, and people see this rainbow like spirit come out of it. That there is this way that can happen collectively as a collective, and I do think that can happen. What Dolores Cannon talks about is like a split into the new Earth, where like how a cell divides. It literally, like how it's kind of like, say you have a radio station and then you create a new station. Well, that old station is still there, but now you have a new station and you can tune to the new station. So she talks about it more as like a vibrational shift, where some people will just like kind of wake up one day, or there'll be some sort of an event. Usually it seems like it has to do with the sun, or maybe the sun does like this micronova type thing, and it creates this like, you know, frequency shift, this vibrational shift, almost like it creates a new station. And then some people are on the new station and some people are on the old station. And it will be so like kind of seamless that you won't really notice. There's not going to be any sort of like I think it'll just kind of happen, like spontaneously. So those are kind of like, there's like the whole like apocalypse kind of a thing in the Bible, but like when you actually break down what the word apocalypse means, it actually just means, dropping of the veil, dropping of the veil of deception typically. And
So, to
yes,
interrupt, but to add a question.
yes.
So, is this the apocalypse? And if so, is it good or bad?
So I think that if we are getting things like disclosure and we're getting told the truth of things and we're getting this like dropping of the veil, then it's a good thing, because if everyone's just going to get wiped out, why bother? Why bother telling people the truth? Why bother disclosing stuff and coming clean? The reason people are coming clean and being whistleblowers and all that stuff is because they're having like a raising of their consciousness. I've talked to people in the intelligence agencies. I talked to people that have worked in some of these things, and it like eats them alive. Like they're humans, and a lot of them, once you retire, once you're on the other side and you're getting older in life, you start thinking about stuff. They're like, man, like I'm tired of keeping this a secret. People need to know this. Well, that feeling inside of them that's like forcing them to kind of come clean and be a whistleblower and tell people this stuff. They might not come and tell everybody, but they'll tell people like me. They'll grab you at conventions and then podcasting behind the scenes when you're off camera. They'll be like, "Hey, this happened," or "I got to tell you this because it's eating them up inside." But you know why it's eating them up inside? Because they have a conscious, because their consciousness is saying, "Hey, this shouldn't be a secret. Like people need to know this." I think that the more we see of this, like people saying that stuff, the government releasing stuff, the truth kind of squeaking out. I know it's not happening all at once because that would be bad. It causes ontological shock and it might destroy the world. We don't want that. But this like slow drip disclosure that's going on, I think is done because we're moving towards the good shift. And the good shift would be this like shift into a higher like level of consciousness, like a higher state of consciousness. People call it 5D, whatever you want to call it, but like just a higher, an evolved level of consciousness. And when Robert Monroe visited the future, they showed him that that was one of the more probable timelines. The future hasn't been set in stone, but it was one of the more probable timelines, and it was a very, very positive timeline. And that is what I think we're headed to. Now, it's not set in stone, so we all need to work hard and be good people, right? Because we're the ones that determine which direction it's going to go. But I think that if the apocalypse goes this way, where we start seeing old power structures crumble and we start seeing like this old guard kind of fall, it might come in the form of like arrests happening at a high level, like big high profile names maybe getting brought down. You start to see this crumbling of the old power structures because you have to destroy the old to bring up a new. And I think that that is a very good sign if that happens. It might seem chaotic and crazy, like, oh my God, like all this crazy stuff's happening. Did you hear they arrested so and so? And did you hear this fell and this crumbled and all this stuff? But that's how you're going to actually know that we're on the good timeline because all that has to happen for us to build up the good parts.
Very good. Okay. What does it mean if I don't remember or recall this school during sleep? Also, I know many people, myself included, where we've never dreamt about a sky full of UFOs. Would meditation help?
Um, yeah, I don't think there's any. I mean, lots of people don't remember their dreams. Doesn't mean you don't have them, and like there's different types of dreams. Like I really think that you have four states of sleep, and state 1 and 2 are kind of in their own group, and state 3 and 4 are kind of in their own group. And I think the first half of your sleep is just taking out the trash, dumping the cash, kind of going through your memories and consolidating things. So you'll have like dreams that don't really have like a lot of meaning. That's why some dreams are just bananas. Like you're just like trying to make sense of it. Like what sense does it make? I'm like literally flying around on a piece of pizza. It's like that's just dreams. Like sometimes you just have whack dreams. That's in your phase 1 and 2 of sleep, where you're just kind of taking out the trash. Phase 3 and 4, especially when you get into REM sleep, Robert Monroe decided or discovered when they were studying all this that he said he's pretty convinced that nearly every single person on Earth, if you get to phase 3, especially phase 4 of sleep, that deep REM, you leave your body. And at that point, your consciousness leaves the body and it goes off to sleeper school and that kind of stuff. So if you don't get to that deep, deep sleep, there's a chance that your consciousness probably doesn't leave your body and go and do some of that stuff. So that's maybe why you don't recall those things. Um, so that's not neither good or bad necessarily. It's just everyone's different. Some people sleep shallow. Some people, if you're like a shift worker or something like that, you might not get that 8 hours of deep sleep. So it's kind of, but every once in a while you will, sometimes you just sleep really deep, every once in a while you're like, oh my God, I slept for 12 hours. What the hell? You probably went and did some stuff in that, but it doesn't mean you're always going to remember. You know what I mean? The idea is for you not to remember. It's actually rare that you do remember your dreams. That's kind of almost like it slipped through the cracks kind of a thing.
Yeah. Okay. Stu says, I feel like I'm tired after waking and have vivid dreams, but can only remember the end of them, where I'm waking, so dream world and reality start to mix. Is there a way to experience more of the dream? So my advice would be the Monroe Institute app, the Expand app. It's got some really fantastic dream recall, but also I'll let Jordan give his tips on how he does his best.
My dream recall protocol.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I do personally is in the morning when I first wake up, I can usually remember a piece of a part of a dream. Okay. And it's usually pretty small and fleeting. And if I got up and I go pee or check my phone or something, it's gone. Okay. So you have a small window to capture this. So what I do, I sleep with the sleep mask on and I wake up in the morning and I'll like sit there and I'll lay in the bed and I'll be like, okay, remember my dream, remember anything, any flash, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then as soon as I do, I put my sleep mask on and I go back to sleep and I go back to that exact moment. And what I do is I try to wiggle back and forth the little window. So like say I only remember like a split second, like all of a sudden I'm running through a house, right? I'm like, okay, what house is this? Where did I get? What am I running from? So I'll go to back to that scene and then I'll go a little bit forward and a little bit back. Okay, a little bit forward. Where did I go? Okay, where did I come from? And I'll wiggle it back and forth just enough and try to like kind of stretch that window open. And sometimes I'm able to stretch it wide open and get like into the dream and kind of consciously look around and that kind of stuff. And other times I just remember a little bit more information and it helps me paint a better picture. But that's how I do it. And you have to do it as soon as you wake up. Don't do anything. Don't fully wake up. You're in this like hypnagogic state where you're kind of in a theta brainwave state and you're half in this world and half in that world. And it's really easy to just think about it and go right back into it. But you have to do it quickly like that. Like if I, like I said, if I check my phone or if I look out the window or if I go pee or anything, it's pretty much over at that point. That's how I do it. I call it the dream recall protocol, and it works really good. And you basically just go exactly to that point and you just wiggle it and try to widen that window. And sometimes you can get it really big and just relive the dream and even like lucidly go in there and look around and try to figure out where you are, what's going on, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's a little bit easier if it's like a repetitive dream.
Yeah, I have a lot of repetitive dreams. I'm
Okay.
obviously not learning whatever lesson that is trying to teach me.
Ethan says UFO community says there will be a big event in 2027 that we are on borrowed time. What are they talking about? I have guesses.
Yeah.
Example, what Ross Colhart.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that throw around dates. You know, Chris Bledsoe talks about Easter. Is it 26 or 27?
I thought it was 26,
I thought it was
but it's been
26.
a minute.
Yeah, I don't know. Time's weird. So Easter, either 26 or 27, Chris Bledsoe talks about how the lady told him that, when the Red Star Regulus is in the gaze of the Sphinx, then, like a new knowledge will be bestowed upon humanity and that could like change humanity. And that with that understanding, that's leading to this like ushering in of like new disclosure and stuff because they're trying to get humans ready for something. They don't even know what's coming. They just know something's coming and they don't want us to be what they don't want is for there to be some big reveal of some sort that's out of their control, say some sort of extraterrestrial reveal or something, some spiritual awakening. And then everybody just loses their shit. Like, because like most of the world is locked into a very rigid belief system. And if all of a sudden we find some archaeological find and it rewrites our history, or we find out that our genesis is different than we were told, we didn't evolve from monkeys the way they say we did, or something like that, that it might be, there's 8 billion people and just look around, they're not all stable. So we have to kind of be delicate with the stuff. And they're trying to kind of speed up the slow drip because they think something's coming. And this has given them the incentive they need to reveal more so that people are more, I don't know, awake on the, not taken so much by surprise when the stuff happens. And the dates that are thrown around are 26 and 27. The 27 date's funny because like Lou Elizondo has thrown that around a bunch, but I don't trust a single thing he says. Other people, who's the little CIA guy? I like him though. I can't think of his name. I'll think of it in a minute. Retired CIA guy. He talks about 2027 a lot, but he even says that he got that date from other people that were just throwing that date around. Like there's no concrete evidence that anything significant is going to happen in 2027. There's just a lot of people saying, that they've heard stuff, even like Jeremy Corbell talks about how there's going to be some fake alien invasion. Stephen Greer talks about some fake alien invasion that's been talked about, forever, the whole Project Bluebeam thing. That's always a possibility. But as far as these exact dates, I mean, I don't know. I don't know about you. My whole life, they've been telling me the world's about to end. Every few years, we're all going to die soon. This is kind of like a recurring thing. So I try not to get too held up on any specific date. Jason Brashears with Archaics does a great work showing that 2040 and 2046 are these two big dates that there's going to be a sort of a cataclysm. Ben Davidson, Space Weatherman, he talks a lot about the micronova that should be coming in 2040s. There was a bunch of other researchers that have pinpointed 2040 and 2046. Even Stephen Schwartz, I touched on this one of the videos. He does the 2050 project. He had like thousands of remote viewers remote view the future, and when they remote view 2050, they said that they were just on the other side of some big event that had happened, and they were kind of putting the pieces back together to civilization, not like in a tear down civilization kind of way, but in a very transformative way. So there's a lot of evidence that something happens somewhere in the 2030s to 2040s. That's my best guess for like the significant event. There's going to be a lot of little things that happen. I mean, all sorts of things are going to happen. I mean, the world's crazy. There's a lot of agendas and a lot of things happening, a lot of moving parts. But I think there's a lot of arrows that point that some big geological event is going to happen, whether it's a pole shift, sun micronova, something different. I don't know, but it seems like the most likely candidate is 2040. So I wouldn't worry too much about 2027. I think there's going to be a lot of little things, but nothing where you need to be like building a bunker or moving to the mountains or anything. Just live your life, be happy. I think everything's going to be just fine. But yeah, I think stuff's just going to keep getting weirder and weirder as we go. Be ready for weirdness for sure.
Alice was saying that she's constantly seeing 444, 444, 444.
Yeah.
Sees it as she's a sign on the right path. Told her that's my birthday, and that your birthday is 1010. And Stu says his is 1111. So we've got all the angel numbers and birthdays, and that's always been like a recurring thing for me. Like almost creepily.
Yeah. And I think you also, those are synchronicities, but I think also it's a sign that you're just becoming more perceptive. You're paying more attention to things because, like in my manifestation course, we talk about the reticular activating system. If you want to learn how to manifest, I have a course called 5D Print Your Reality, and it teaches you how to manifest. And it works really good. I like it. And one of the things we do is we train something called the reticular activating system. This is part of your brain that you tell it what to focus on, and it focuses on it. And it works as like an assistant for you, and it gathers all that information. Well, if you start focusing, it's like I always use this analogy because everyone gets it. But say you go car shopping and you're like, oh, I'm going to go get a red Tesla, and you test drive a red Tesla, and you don't buy it, but you're like, okay, I really liked it. I'm going to think about it. And when you're driving home and you see like 20 red Teslas, you're like, oh man, everyone's got a red Tesla all of a sudden. Well, no, now you just program your reticular activating system, to look for that. So it's filtering out all the other cars and it's looking for red Teslas, right? So when that's how I see the because I see all repeating numbers all the time now, and it's because my wife is always pointing them out. So now I start looking for them, and it's like I mean, there's still the same amount of repeating numbers every day, but now what my brain does is it filters out all the other ones that don't matter, like 11:13. Who cares about 11:13? That's a stupid time, but 11:11. So it's focusing. It's like looking for that. So now it got to the point where we have this thing now where I'll start seeing all the repeating numbers 1 minute before. So it'll be like 11:10. So now instead of saying 11:11, now I'm always like 1 minute, and then we like wait for it. And like when I'm out on like runs or shopping or doing errands or whatever, I'll see that it's like 11:10, and I'll literally type 11:11 to text you. And as soon as it hits 11:11, I hit send so I can be first. But I think part of that is we're being more perceptive, but also we're also looking for that stuff, because we get to tell our subconscious what to look for. We gotta let in the cat.
Priorities here.
We don't let in Soul, he won't stop.
Hi, buddy.
Oh, we have a new co-host that's entered the room. Soul, our little orange munchkin cat, is here. He might make an appearance.
Okay, let's see. Oh, this is a good question and a chance for you to talk about some stuff that's coming up. Do you have any plans to go more in depth on plasma and the powers that it could provide, sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so
Plasma.
plasma. Yeah, I have an exciting guest coming up. So on my podcast, I'm going to start doing interviews as well. So you still get me walking through the woods, but I'm also going to have guests on. Sometimes they'll be walking in the woods with me. But my next guest, I'll just give a big hint, without actually giving the full reveal. But she's basically the plasma girl. So I will be talking with the plasma girl here in a couple of weeks. We leave in a few days to go to Vegas. We got a big interview in Vegas that'll be really exciting. And then when we come back, I'll be talking to the plasma girl. And so we'll deep dive on that. So when it comes to plasma, if you've ever read Robert Temple's book, A New Science of Heaven, it's a great book. It's all about plasma. And I've always been infatuated with plasma because I'm fully convinced that the universe is 99.9% non-physical. When I say non-physical, I actually mean plasma. And that plasma, the word that it's derived from, the Greek word for plasma actually means to fold and to make form. And I think plasma is what physical matter reality is actually made of. It's like the clay that makes our world and that makes everything. And that most of the universe is just a blank canvas of like unrealized plasma. It just hasn't been formed. And that everything is is formable, everything's malleable, and that, like we as the conscious observer, especially when you get more advanced and you can create stuff out of stuff. But it's even more like ectoplasma. I mean, they've even done stuff with ectoplasma where people psychically have been able to like create and generate things out of nowhere by just using what's called ectoplasma, which is plasma. It's just plasma that's brought into the physical. So, but we're in this like closed physical world. And outside of this closed physical world, when you're in the greater universe, there's a guy named William Bullman. He wrote a book called Journeys in the Afterlife. That's amazing. And it goes into the point of life here on Earth. And one of the points is to learn manifestation by controlling your thoughts and emotions, because here we have a delay. When I manifest something here, it doesn't come immediately. It comes down the way a little bit. But when you're in the greater universe, you have instant creation, instant manifestation, because that plasma, you can literally mold it into whatever you want by just using your thoughts and your imagination. Like that's why in your dreams, you can make anything you want in your dreams. That applies, like the dream world, the real world, and the spirit world, slash non-physical world, it's all made of the same stuff. It's just there's different rule sets that govern different regions. So here, I can't just form something out of nothing with my mind, because there's rules that kind of govern that here, even though there are hacks. But when you're out in certain parts of the universe, you can turn that plasma into things, and that's how matter is made. So I firmly believe that plasma is, they call it the fourth state of matter. I think it's the first state of matter. Um, I think that it's incredibly important. It makes up the vast majority, and I mean 99+% of the universe. And we don't really know that much about it. And I think that's interesting. I've learned that plasma makes up about 99% of the physical universe, and that neutrinos make up about 99% of the non-physical universe. And those two things, neutrinos are the most abundant particle in the entire universe, and plasma is the most abundant form of like energy in the entire universe. And we don't know anything about them, like relatively. Like we know very little about those two things, and they're the most abundant things. And I really think that neutrinos and plasma, they're a big part of what I've been researching lately. And I think that they hold the the clues to everything. Like those two things, neutrinos and plasma, are immensely important. And we're just at the very tip of even discovering what it is. And I think it's super fascinating stuff. So be looking for a podcast coming up in the next 2 weeks, with me and Plasma Girl, and we're going to deep dive on that whole world. So,
Super excited.
yeah, it'd be fun.
Okay. Does anybody in the chat have any other questions they want to pop out there? I have one rolling back to the star seed. So where do you think the Rh negative blood type plays a factor into that? Because there's like, like they say that like, like King Tut was. Like I had a very close friend who was super like tortured in this life, but like extremely intelligent, very like kind-hearted and that kind of stuff. And she was Rh negative, and like her energy was just different than other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny. I've been asked that question more than probably any question ever, and it's the only thing I have not deep dove on. It's the only thing I haven't done a video on. There's some block with me in RH negative as far as like my investigation into it, because there's no reason why I have not pursued that more. Because I'm asked that question.
Right now.
I'm asked that question constantly. Um, from
Ooh,
what
maybe Kathy could help us do some deep dive on that as well.
from what I know, so I have blonde hair and blue eyes. It's browner now, but I used to be very blonde hair and blue eyes. I always thought that people with blonde hair and blue eyes were prevalent all over the world, right? Like, I don't know, just I'm an American, so I look at everything from that lens. I just figured, oh, like most of the world's blonde hair and blue eyes, right? And then I realized that I forget the exact numbers, but it's a astronomically low percentage of the global population is blonde hair, blue eyes. Something like 1% or something. It's crazy how little of the population has blonde hair, blue eyes. And I was like, okay, that's weird. Then I realized, okay, so Sarah has, like, you have red hair and hazel eyes, green eyes, right? That's even rarer. Like
Ray, our
our
daughter,
daughter has
red,
bright red hair and green
Really?
eyes, bright,
Yeah.
like emerald green eyes. And that's incredibly rare, so rare. And so then I started looking into that, and the alternate history that that takes you down is bizarre, to say the least. And there are all sorts of connections between what we would call Rh negative and like the whole, red hair, green eyes, and blonde hair, blue eyes phenomenon in like the Anunnaki, or that kind of whatever you want to call it. So, anyways, it's a new like addition to the human race. Like they're both new. Like the humans go back millions of years. Like people think humans are tens of thousands of years old because that's the amount of history we really know. But we have found human bones that are millions of years old. So we know that humans are millions of years old. They were very different back then, but they go back a long time. So millions of years. And blonde hair, blue eyes is like, I forget how many thousands of years old, but it's not very old, right? It's new. And Rh negative blood is new. It's a new addition. And those things are usually pretty linked. Usually, Rh negative have like red hair, green eyes, or blonde hair, blue eyes a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. So it seems like Rh negative and these physical traits are sort of new additions to the human race. And they also have been persecuted. There's lots of examples of history of that not being a good thing. Like having blonde hair, blue eyes, and red hair and green eyes are not always like things that cultures and stuff celebrate. A lot of times those people are targeted individuals. A lot of times, things happen to these people, and it's weird. It really is. It's a fascinating thing. So I've done some digging on it, and it's always taken me to these like alternate history things, like where I started really getting into these rabbit holes of resets and these beings that seem to live inside the earth, as crazy as it sounds. They call it the cryptoterrestrial hypothesis, and that there's a connection between that and like the Rh negative beings. Like there seems to be some sort of like deeper story here. It doesn't seem to be like something that evolved out of the human race, because I don't know, it doesn't fit the whole like Darwinism evolutionary thing. Like there's not really any reason for it. And I know that, I don't know, there's the biological scientific explanation for where blonde hair and blue eyes and green eyes and red hair came from, but it doesn't really make any sense. So much of it doesn't make any sense. Just people are guessing. So anyways, need to do a deep dive on RH negative, and I will do that because it's very, very fascinating. But I think that that is one of the biggest mysteries on Earth and for the human race. And I think that more people, more biologists and geneticists and people should be more interested in that. But they just kind of just brush it aside like it's
Yeah.
no big deal. But like there's not really a good explanation for it. And the more you like look into it, the more you talk to people, it gets really weird. There's something there for sure. So I'll do a deep dive on that soon.
Okay, so Energy Shifter said that he sent an email earlier this week, and sorry, I rolled down. Okay, so he sent an email more than a week ago asking something that he saw on the other side while visiting his parents. He said, "My mom was in this metal framework. She could move around with it around her. I have no idea what its purpose was. She's been in that dimension since December of 23."
So he visited his mom
Like, I guess
on
in
their side.
the other side,
Okay.
yeah. She's like in this metal framework.
Ah.
And he was like wondering if you had any like thoughts on the purpose of that.
I can't give you any specific things, but I can tell you, you know, like going back to like Robert Monroe and his books when he talks about he visited his dad and his friend on the other side. And what he found is that when you do pass over, especially at the beginning, you go to like a little R&R kind of a thing where it's like just to ease the transition before you get into, your past life review and your future life planning and your counsels and all that kind of stuff. You just have a little downtime and you have a little creative time where you can make stuff. You get to design your habitat and that kind of stuff. So one of his friends, Charlie, flew airplanes. So when he visited Charlie, Charlie had like a hangar and he was making some new kind of airplane design and stuff, right? And then when he visited his dad just was in this like weird room, like because he created all this with his mind, just this weird room. And then right out front of the room was like an ocean. And it was funny because like one of Robert Monroe's other friends found his dad because Robert Monroe figured out that this other friend of his was actually a past life of Robert Monroe's. So, anyways, they're all connected. Visited his dad and was helping his dad make waves. He was actually designing the waves in the ocean outside of his room, and his dad was getting frustrated with him because he kept making the waves square and yellow, and he's like, "No, waves aren't square and yellow." And so, anyways, it's kind of funny. It just goes to show that you do get to create these environments. They're almost like virtual realities that you make, because it's you get to make your own little home when you transition, so that it's familiar to you, it's yours, and that's where you go to kind of calm down after the transition. And then at a certain point, your higher self will send the guide to come and kind of pluck you out to be like, hey, come over here, we got something to show you. And then that's when you kind of go through your other progressions and the in between. So if you visited your mom and she has some sort of a thing around her, more than likely that's something she created. That's something that came out of her mind. I can't tell you why or what its purpose is or anything like that, but I wouldn't worry that she's like trapped in something or anything like that. My understanding of especially the initial transition phases is it's kind of like a virtual reality of your own making. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I would fully agree with all of that. Was there anything else you wanted to share?
No, no, I mean, just I'll reiterate sort of that like the whole shift thing I think it's an exciting thing. And I think that we are at this tipping point. I think there's a reason why there's 8 billion of us here right now. It's almost like the grand finale of sorts, it seems. I think that there will be a shift, maybe not in our lifetimes, but here, probably in this century, that is going to change, Earth. I mean, Earth's changed a whole bunch over, time. I mean, like the humans that are on Earth now are way different than the humans that used to be here. Earth itself is way different than it used to be. So everything always changes. But I really think that there's this consciousness tipping point coming that I think is coming fast, and it's going to start compounding and being exponential. I think that the whole UFO ET thing is happening really fast because it's all connected. Because as people start waking up and people start opening up and as the veil starts thinning, I mean, when me and Sarah had our last UFO encounter, it was during the Northern Lights here, and we went outside to shoot the Northern Lights. We're in Florida. We're not supposed to get Northern Lights. I mean, it's called Northern Lights. We're the most southern state. So when we were outside looking at the Northern Lights, we saw a giant craft go over us, a big boomerang shaped craft, and it slid right over us. And I didn't get the impression that it was anything new. You almost got the impression that we are just seeing it because of the northern lights. Something about the aurora borealis was causing like it causes this ionization and of the atmosphere, and something about that made the craft visible, whereas it probably wouldn't have been otherwise, right? Like that's kind of the impression I got. So that makes you think, oh, they're always there, and that's why it goes back to like the sky full of UFOs. Well, what if the sky is always full of UFOs? We just don't see them. And that's what I'm really starting to think is that this stuff is everywhere. It's all around us. It doesn't want to hurt us. It doesn't want to invade us or anything like that. Like they've been here for probably longer than we have. I don't think this is a new thing at all. I think it's just with the changes to the earth, with the sun changes and with our consciousness changes, and then probably even our technological changes, with AI and with, better sensors and better cameras and that kind of stuff. I think that in our lifetimes, it's going to be painstakingly obvious that we're not alone and that this stuff is very, very common and probably far stranger than anyone can comprehend. So I think that's coming. And then I think that kind of coincides with this whole tipping point that's happening with artificial intelligence and the whole AI singularity. We have that coming at the same time as the consciousness singularity. And then at the same time, there seems to be some earth changes coming. A lot of things point to the sun. It's easy to see like the magnetic North Pole is like rapidly accelerating and changing, direction. Like, compasses don't work the way they used to. Like the magnetic north is different than it used to be. And it always like progresses, but it's like shooting off. So like, there's a lot of things that point to there's earth changes coming, there's consciousness changes coming, and there are like definitely something happening with the whole ET thing. So there's a lot of agendas, a lot of misinformation, a lot of weirdness out there. So just use your discernment. But I think it's a very exciting time. I think that in the history of this form of humanity, this is probably the most exciting time to be alive. So don't go through this being like scared or letting people pull you into some dark place because I think that this is a very exciting time to be alive and that our collective like actions and sentiment and vibration is what's going to determine if this goes good or bad. So it's a choose your own adventure game and we are in charge. So I have no doubt that there's negative people and entities out there probably trying to pull us a different direction, but it's up to us. We're the conscious observer that get to choose which way we go. So just keep your vibe high and stay positive. I think that I really do. If I had to put money on it, I think that we're going to pick the positive timeline. I think that we have help. I think that there are plenty of beings that want a positive outcome from all this and are subtly, kind of nudging and encouraging that outcome. And, the universe seems to favor the reduction of entropy. It seems to favor positive over negative. It seems to be built on unconditional love. And it seems like that's the natural way it wants things to go. So if you actually want to have a bad outcome, you have to try like to kind of overcome that. So I think that if we just go with our gut and go with our instinct and treat people right and do the right thing and do what we know we should be doing, that it's all going to work out just fine. So just stay positive. I think it's going to be fun, right? What else you got? Any last minute ones come in?
Last minute, is there a best time of the day to work on astral projection?
Nope. Everyone's different. So, your life's different, your body's different. I do best at night. That's when I find peace late at night when the world's kind of asleep. The world's weird at night. Like it's like you ever been outside at like 4 a.m. It's weird. It's like you're behind the scenes of reality. So anyways, my body does great when everything's asleep and everyone's asleep and I can really manifest and really connect and do really neat things late at night. But then I know plenty of people that their jam is first thing in the morning, you know, and before they've checked their
Sleep,
inbox,
like,
before they've done anything. Yeah.
I can't like do it at night because I fall asleep
Yeah.
if I try to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, totally. So there's no right or wrong way. It's whatever works for you. Just try them all, try it in the morning, try it at night, try it in the afternoon, you know. Um, Afternoons are kind of, for me, that seems like the worst time to do it just because the world is so noisy and busy. But, if you have a quiet place in your house, I mean, yeah, just try different things. But yeah, everyone's different. There's no right or wrong way. There is that whole theory of like 3 o'clock in the morning being the,
you naturally wake up at that
yeah,
time, that it's like when the veil is the thinnest.
yeah. And that's when I typically, because I stay up late. So when I do my stuff, it's usually anywhere between like midnight and 3 in the morning. So I'm kind of taking advantage of that time. But there's, that's when like a lot of Middle Eastern cultures, like they'll do their like meditations at that time. I forget what the exact ideology is. That's like at 3 o'clock is when they do their meditation. But there's also a theory that we're not supposed to sleep 8 straight hours. We're supposed to sleep 4 hours, wake up, and then 4 more hours. That's how humans did it for like thousands of years, and that it's just a new development to try to sleep 8 straight hours. So if you ever wake up in the middle of the night, say you wake up at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, like so many people do, maybe take advantage of that time and do a meditation instead of like getting frustrated because you're awake or something like that. Do a meditation then, because that's what a lot of people do and a lot of cultures do, and they think that there's a very special time. Like that's a special time when, I have this thing that I call the neutrino manifestation method, and I really think this sounds weird, but I really think that we're supposed to that sleep and overnight is like a buffer, and that you're supposed to put out your manifestations during the day, and especially right before you go to bed. Right before you go to bed is the perfect time to kind of program your subconscious, but also slip that code into the system itself, and then go to sleep. And then tell yourself right before you go to sleep, this is my manifestation, this is what I want. And then first thing in the morning, I want to recall any messages that I get, anything like that in my sleep. And then wake up in the morning, try to recall any of those messages. And then I go out into the sun, go into the sun and receive the updates. So if you treat all this like you're getting an update to like an app or something, like treat your life like a system, you're putting the new code in at night. You're going to sleep, letting the system take that code and run it. And then you wake up in the morning and you receive the update. And that's something that I've tied to the neutrinos and how I see the back end information getting to the front end of the system. So the back end, like the spirit side, the stars or the portals, the neutrinos go from the back end into the front end. They pass through the stars. That's where we get all our neutrinos from. And that's what builds this reality. And I actually have a lot of information to back this up, but I won't bore you with it now. But we receive the neutrinos from the sun. Obviously, they pass through matter, so you don't have to be in the sun, but it works so much better. There's something very special about being in the sun. So, I don't even know what made me say that, but put that somewhere in your head.
Okay. Well, I think that.
All right. On that note, we had y'all for an hour and a half. Man, you guys rock. Thanks everybody for coming, and sorry about the beginning. We're gonna get all this figured out.
Oh, wait, I do have one more
Oh,
question.
we got one more.
Sorry. Are star seeds supposed to come together and form groups,
Ah,
or should they work independently?
Sarah's. We're ending on a doozy here. This is actually a really hard one. I saw this come across. So are star seeds supposed to work together or separately? I love this question because I don't know the answer and I've never even thought about it, but it's fascinating. So there was a theory, Dolores Cannon talked about the second wave of star seeds, and that their purpose was just to be. They didn't need to really do anything. Like, it didn't mean they weren't supposed to have jobs and do stuff, but like their whole purpose was just being here. They were like a beacon of light. They're called light workers, and their job was just to spread love and light and to raise the overall vibration by just existing. We had all these hippies running around, bright colors, flower power, spreading love and light, playing music, dancing and having fun, and they raised the vibration. And they were supposed to end our like cycle of war and this negative spiral that we are going down. So they probably didn't need a group or to be around, I mean, they were so full of light. But then at the same time, you get 10 hippies together, right? And they're like, magnifying it. So, um, I don't know. It's such an
I
interesting
mean,
question.
like, yeah, whenever you come together as a collective, like even like an online
Mhm.
collective. So like you physically went to Monroe Institute, you had magical experiences. I did Gateway from home, and I still had shared experiences with the people that were in my group and stuff
Yeah,
like that. You know what I mean? So like there is something to like
the connection.
the connection when you're in a physical group
Mhm.
or even like a online group and you're all putting your energy together towards like
Yeah.
one thing.
So if I had to really like give an answer to it, what I would say is probably the best is for starseeds to find a few other like-minded like people that they resonate with. Because you can always be more powerful with a little group. Um, but at the same time, they're supposed to be spread around the whole world, kind of each doing their thing. So I don't know. It's very interesting. But then there's things like Woodstock, for example. Like Woodstock was this event that like changed like so much. Like Woodstock was one event that changed, that shifted like the whole culture and identity of a generation. And that was a coming together of all these people. So it's almost like it's both. Like you, as an individual, you're going to spend most of your life as an individual. You have to be powerful and you have to be a light, a beacon by yourself. But then also it helps to have a little crew, and then also it helps to like every once in a while come together and do big badass things, to really, really shift things, to really make an impact. There was the great harmonic convergence, or whatever they called it, in the 80s. It was like the biggest global mass meditation event ever. Um, the harmonic convergence, I think is what it was called. And it was the single biggest mass meditation event ever. And all sorts of things happened after it that were pretty amazing. So yeah, there is something about, you know, being strong by yourself, but I think always when you come together and like kind of form like a super group, it does even more. Yeah, but it's a very interesting question because I know a lot of like people are very isolated, especially nowadays, and maybe you know like maybe you are a light worker, maybe you are a starseed, and you don't have your tribe, you don't have friends, you're kind of isolated, and you're probably thinking, should I try to find my crew? And I think yeah, probably should. Yeah, get out there and
Or if
find
you
the
like
rest of your team.
specifically feel drawn to a person or something, it might be,
Yeah,
you know,
a
because
reason. Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great question. Um,
And Stu, we will definitely go a little bit deeper into both of our experiences doing Gateway, mine from home, and Jordan's physically being at the Institute. I haven't made it to the Institute yet, but I know that my day is coming soon. So,
yep, yep. We're both gonna go next year. So,
mhm. But yeah, we'll definitely do a deep dive on that. For me, what I really liked about doing it from home, but it was like still the like 6 day course. So it was like all day, every day. It was pretty intense. Um, but I had the comforts of home. I had my cat here. Um, I was able to eat what I wanted to. Not that, I mean, Monroe Institute has amazing food, from what I hear, but it was nice to be able to walk the beach for my midday grounding and that kind of stuff. And you also, when you do it from home, get to keep the meditations on your dashboard for 30 days. So, like when Jordan went and he physically experienced it, but it was like all back to back to back to back. Like it's so much in such a short amount of time. It's really hard unless you have time to physically journal in between each meditation to recall everything that happens because it's
yeah, it's
so
just a blur.
much.
Yeah.
But whenever, like for me, I was able to re-experience those and like go a little deeper and expand a little further. So
Yeah,
I
it's
think
cool.
both have really cool, perks to them.
I would
Because
say
like
nothing beats going there, but doing the virtual is such a close second where it's like, like you said, you mentioned all the positives and all the pros. Like it has its own, like there's its own things about it that make it even better.
yeah,
But being there together with people, I think is always best because you get that cumulative effect of like the people and the energy and everything coming together. Um, but it's also not for everyone because it's very powerful and a lot of weird shit happens there. Like, you know, like we talked to Emily Holloway and JK Ultra after they got back from the last Creators
Yeah.
Gateway, and they were both like kind of shaken a little bit. Mine like left me like really, I don't know, like it weirds you out. It's so many strange things happen that are hard for your brain to compute, and so much happens there that is I don't know, that deeply like changes you. It's hard to like process all of it because when you come back home to the real world, you have to process all of the experience you had, and then all the paranormal stuff, and then all everything all at once, and like it's really hard. Like I actually got sick afterwards. I was pretty sick for a couple weeks afterwards. Like I just the kind of coming back into this world was not easy, you know. So it's powerful and it's amazing, and I wouldn't change it for the world, but it's not for everyone because it might be too much. I know a few of the people that went with me and with the next crew, that went with the Creator Gateway, had some, like not traumatic, but definitely like life changing, mind shattering things that then you're just back on your own and you have to figure it out and put all the pieces back together, and it's tough.
I was very grateful to have you, like, who had experienced it, to like talk to,
Yeah.
as I was going through it myself and
Yeah.
experiencing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it would definitely help to have somebody who's done it before to be sort of like a mentor or somebody you can like just bounce some things off of,
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're gonna have way more questions than answers.
And I mean, like, I had played around with different hemisync tapes and stuff before that, but nothing beats like actually going through it in the design that Robert Monroe like created with the guidance of the Monroe Institute, like teachers to like tell you that, oh yeah, that's lots
Yeah.
of people have experienced that before. You're not, everything's okay. You're not freaking out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, just doing the tapes is one thing, but actually doing the actual gateway with the trainers is so much better.
Yeah.
So different. But yeah, I would encourage anybody to do it any way you can. If you can go there, absolutely do that. If you can't, don't worry. The virtual is awesome too. Yeah. And it might even be better for you, depending on, your type of person. So I definitely recommend. We're going to be going back. We're going to be doing some Monroe-esque stuff here at the beach. So be looking for some announcements of some workshops and things like that coming up here. And we want to do more in-person community stuff. And it's going to be like a little, miniature Monroe kind of style thing, but with our own flavor. So we got a lot of exciting things coming up, guys. Got two important episodes coming out this coming week. And then we head to Vegas. I'm going to be on the Sean Kelly show. So that's super exciting. And then when we come back, I will have, y'all already figured it out. Dana, Plasma Girl, is going to be on the show. And we have a lot of exciting things coming up. I was just told today that my Spotify, the Conscious Observer Spotify podcast, is featured. So on Spotify, they have a editors, what's it called? Editorial
Spotlight.
So basically, the humans that work at Spotify. So the algorithm places your thing different places and suggests it to people based on, previous watches and whatever. But then the actual humans there like curate their own stuff. So they watch stuff and find stuff, and then when they find stuff they like, they put it into the special rotation. It's called the editorial spotlight. And mine was selected, so my show will actually be being suggested to people, which I guess is a big deal because Spotify like 200 million monthly users, so big. A lot of people use it, but so it should be shown to a lot more people. So the show's already doing really good, and the numbers are really good. And I'm really excited about everything, and I thank all of y'all so much. But this will give it like a little boost, and that's cool because I don't know. I use all the help I can get. Right? There's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of competition, and mine's kind of I guess niche and weird, and it's definitely not like mainstream and all that kind of stuff. So all the little help I can get. So this is a big boost. So I thought that was cool. So we've only been doing this for like 3 weeks or something. Yeah, 3, maybe 4. Yeah. So it's already getting noticed by real human beings.
And all of you real human
Yeah.
beings.
So anyways, thank y'all. I mean, y'all watching it and commenting and sharing and all that is why it's getting seen by these people, So appreciate everybody. Appreciate y'all for being here. Happy Saturday, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
See you Tuesday.
Bye, guys.